Hey guys, welcome back. This is Cornerstone Ministries. I'm Eddie with another teaching. Today we're going to talk about the title Obedience Unlocks Miracles. And that's going to be coming from Luke 1 verses 59 to 66. Once again, that's Luke 1 verses 59 to 66. Let's read it with me. On the 8th day they came to circumcise the child, and they were going to name him after his father Zechariah. But his mother spoke up and said, "No, he is to be called John." They said to her, "There is no one among your relatives who has that name." They made signs to his father to find out what he would like to name the child. He asked for a writing tablet, and to everyone's astonishment, he wrote, "His name is John." Immediately his mouth was opened and his tongue was set free, and he began to speak, praising God. All the neighbors were filled with awe, and throughout the whole country of Judea, people were talking about all these things. Everyone who heard this wondered about it, asking, "What then is this child going to be?" For the Lord's hand was with him. One thing I like about the Gospels is that each Gospel has its own perspective. For instance, in the book of Matthew, his first chapter, he did a whole family tree and talked about Joseph accepting Jesus as his son. In John, the author specifies how Jesus is divine and how in the beginning Jesus was always with God and how he was the Word and the Word was with God, highlighting the fact that Jesus was always there and he came down to earth on a mission. In the book of Luke, he has a totally different perspective. He gives his account of the story from a physician's point of view. So Luke was a physician and a man of research. So when he talks about the account of Jesus, he likes to give us the complete story, and he likes to give us the medical overview. So he already read Matthew and Mark's account, and he wanted to give a third account with more information. He wanted to give an account that was orderly and comprehensive. Luke 1 talks about a man named Zechariah and his wife Elizabeth. Zechariah was a priest from the division of Abijah. His wife was one of the daughters of Aaron, and her name was Elizabeth. They were both righteous. They were walking upright before the Lord. So there was no reason that they wouldn't be able to have a baby. One would think that because Elizabeth was barren, that she did something wrong. No, that's not the case. God was doing something different. He was going to allow the situation to happen so he could show his glory. So if you read with me, God had a plan for them. God was doing something new. While Zechariah was serving as a priest, for those who don't know, Zechariah was a priest, and it was his turn to burn incense. In those days, many people were priests to the point they had to cast a lot for a priest to do certain things. For instance, there was a lot to cleanse the altar, to kill the sacrifice, and there was another lot to light incense. If we recall in the book of Exodus 30, incense was offered to God every morning and night. By the time Zechariah came around, it was an established practice. So Zechariah was in the temple burning incense while the people were outside praying. And oftentimes, incense is symbolic with prayer. So it's interesting that Zechariah was inside burning incense while the people were outside praying. And then suddenly an angel appeared to him and told him that his prayer has been answered. That's amazing. The angel Gabriel told him, "Your prayer is heard, and your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son, and you will call him John. You will have joy and gladness, and many will rejoice at his birth. He will turn many children of Israel to the Lord their God. He will go forward with the spirit of Elijah to make ready a people prepared for the Lord." So this special baby was supposed to make a way for Jesus Christ. Stay tuned. There are four key points in Luke 1, verses 59 to 66 that we can concentrate on. The first one is God is doing something new. What do I mean? God is doing something new. On the day of circumcision, that is the day they decide to name the baby. And it's strange because the baby is usually named after the father. So when Elizabeth says, hey, the baby's name is John, the people around her are confused because the baby's father's name is not John. And why is God doing something different here? It's because the community expected tradition. God delivered purpose. Sometimes the greatest obstacle to following God is our attachment to things that's always been. Another thing is God is not bound by pattern, expectations, or traditions. When God appoints a purpose, he writes a new name all over the story. God did something different because that baby had a purpose to lead the way of Jesus Christ. God is intentional. Look at all the steps he took before the coming of Jesus Christ. So it's not by chance, but it was something that was well thought of, well planned out, to the point that he has someone to prepare for Jesus Christ. The more and more I read the Bible, I realize how the coming of Jesus Christ was planned to the very detail. He was not a random man that showed up in Galilee and said, hey, I'm the Messiah. But if you look in the Old Testament, there were signs of him and that the world needed him. It was planned from the very beginning. We read that in Isaiah 9. Unto us a child is born, and to us a son is given. And the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. This was a writing in 8th century BC, hundreds of years before Christ came to earth. And in the book of Daniel, he receives a vision of the Son of Man coming out of the clouds. And to him was given dominion and glory and a kingdom that all peoples, nations, and languages serve him. And this book was written in 167 BC. Moses speaks of a lamb that will heal leprosy. Jesus does a miracle and tells that person to go back and says the prophecy of Moses is fulfilled. I am here. Number 3, obedience unlocks blessing. Because of Zechariah's unbelief, he was mute for several months. He was basically mute for his entire wife's pregnancy. But it was only until he declared that the child is a gift from God that he gets his voice back. So everyone there was able to witness God's moving. A man was mute for several months, but got his ability to speak again when he acknowledges God and his gift. And that gift prepared the way for another gift, which is Jesus Christ, who saved humanity. Can we say intentional? Just like God had a plan for that baby, he has a plan for you. God is still calling babies or people to prepare the way for Christ in today's world. How can we say God is intentional, yet he didn't have a plan for you? The scripture says, but it is written, what no eye has seen, nor ear has heard, nor the heart of man imagined, what God has prepared for those who love him. Don't be foolish like Zechariah was. He prayed for something, and when God answered his prayer, he didn't believe. He thought his problem was too big for God, but really, God was too big for his problems. Maybe God has an idea he put in your heart, or maybe he has called you to something. Let's believe that if God gave us that vision, he has the power to make it come to life. And as far as the naysayers, don't mind them. Because we learn from this story that God has a way of muting those who don't believe. So, in conclusion, Luke 1 reminds us that God is doing something new. Even when it does not look familiar or comfortable, we can trust that He's doing something new. He's not reacting to circumstances. He is intentional, working according to a divine plan that began long before we even came to His mind. We see in Zechariah, obedience unlocks blessings, and these blessings are unlocked when we align ourselves with what God has already spoken. When we trust God enough to say yes, even when it challenges expectations, God releases restoration, clarity, and praise. Just as God had a specific purpose for that baby before He ever spoke a word or took a step, God has a plan for each of us. Your life is not accidental. Your season is not wasted. Your obedience today may be preparing the way for something greater tomorrow, greater than you can imagine. So the question before us is not whether God is working, but whether we still trust Him enough to follow where He leads us. May we be found obedient, expectant, and ready for the new thing God is doing in us and through us. That is the end of my message. If you felt blessed by this, please like or comment. Write something in the comment section. And once again, thank you for attending this teaching with me, and I hope you are blessed.